All right. Hello, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Happy
So-
Monday.
Oh, gosh. Happy Monday, Hunter. How was your weekend?
You know, it was a weekend. Things happened. I did stuff. And now
Man,
we're here
this is
back
the
at
content
Monday.
people
It's crazy that
specific.
Mondays keep happening.
Mondays keep happening, but
Just
Hunter,
every week.
Hunter, as I walked into the yeah, as I walked into the studio this morning,
Uh-huh.
because we're just across the table from each other.
Absolutely.
I noticed that there was a third person here in the studio. He brought like an armchair,
I did
and a
think that was a
library.
weird move that like he brought his own armchair and library into the studio.
Yeah,
But
and I
you know,
was
he
hoping,
insisted.
can I
Celebrities, what are you gonna do?
can I talk to you kind of like over here in the corner?
Yeah,
I just
over
don't
here
want
at
to
the end
talk
of our
about
desk.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, um, it's just he keeps on saying to keep it gooey, and
Well, hey,
I don't know what that means.
we're
He's handed me a couple D20s, and they're really really slimy. Um,
well, I mean, if we're gonna keep it gooey, we might as well start off right. Everybody, today we have Alphinius Goo in the studio. Alphinius,
shucks.
a pleasure to have you, sir.
So
We're
excited.
very excited.
Hello, my friends. How are you doing this marvelous day? And they are not slimy, Paul. Let us be clear about this. They are sticky. Okay,
They're sticky. Good. That's better. That's so good. That's so. I'm
It's
so
marvelous.
glad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do somewhere around here. I do have a D10 that is a gooey cube D10, and it's got like modifiers on it and stuff. It's very cool. I cleaned out my desk recently, and I'm not sure where it went.
No, that was pretty funny. I was thinking about that. I was thinking, my God, they're making me sound like a total pervert. So
Sticky dice, better than slimy dice. I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
agree
yeah,
with
yeah.
that. Yeah.
You know, I think because like one of these definitely. I think sticky. We can all agree now. That's a good family brand.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
that's what.
I mean, we talk about syrup on the show all the time, so
my God,
Oh,
what have I
gosh.
done? My agent is going to hate me for this. Yes, if I had an agent, that would be different. But
Oh gosh, but
Oh,
but
man.
no, we have Alphinius Goo from Gooey Cube here in the studio today, and boy howdy, we're just so excited. We've got some cool stuff. Incidentally, true to form, Hunter has a Kickstarter box that
I
we're going to
do.
be unboxing today, which is really cool. That means we're
I'm
moving
excited.
up. Yeah, we're gonna do an unboxing and an interview simultaneously. It's really cool.
They were sort of unrelated because I got this the other day, and I was like, well, that just couldn't be better timing.
Yeah.
That my next shipment from the Kickstarter arrived like 2 days before we were gonna have Alphinius on the show. So
Oh, I can't
I'm
imagine
excited.
a better time to open this bad boy up.
Absolutely.
well, I'm excited. I'm just excited because sometimes these boxes get beat around when they're getting
Mhm.
delivered. But I'm looking at your box; it looks really in good shape,
Yeah.
so it makes me happy.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. The USPS does not mess around with Hunter. Because I think
They know better.
yeah, they know better.
Yes,
They've
I
had a
see.
few
I see. He has
choice
all that
encounters.
weaponry. He has all that weaponry in the background.
Yeah,
so I'm
man.
sure
You
that
don't
quite
mess
intimidating.
with my my D&D stuff.
No,
Um,
no, absolutely
well,
not.
Alphinius, would you be so kind as to tell our listeners who you are and what Gooey Cube is?
Of course.
And we'll go from there.
I'd love to, Hunter. But of course, you and I became friends. What goodness gracious,
Oh,
about
man,
2 years ago. Yes, probably something
That was
like that.
PAX South,
South. Yes.
2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before all the madness, right? Before all the
Yeah,
craziness. Yes.
towards towards the end of the time where it was no longer madness. But yeah, I have a very clear memory of getting on a plane and having to repack my entire like carry-on because I had books. What was it? Books 1 through 4 at the time, in my backpack and like trying to maneuver it to fit into the overhead compartment. compartment. They ended up bringing me like a large trash bag and being like, well, you can put all of your clothes and stuff in here, and then you can put your other bag up into the overhead compartment.
Well, the reason for all your friends out there, or the reason why he's talking about this is because we don't make fairly what I would call traditional adventure materials, right? We make these box sets, which kind of harken back to the old days, with many handouts and supportive materials. And I like to brag that we help game masters in a number of different ways, right? Primarily, first and foremost, we help to create a much. There's one of them, right? About 5.5, 6 pounds, right? Something like that. Hunter.
Yeah, it's a hefty box.
Yes,
there's a ton of stuff in here.
And it has all these accoutrements that normally some of us as game masters would have to download ourselves, have to create ourselves, all of that stuff.
You got like NPC art, you've got handouts, you've got tables and books and all sorts of stuff.
So I feel like I'm listening to like a Dr. Seuss book being read aloud. That like they had handouts and tables and bingles and bongles. They had, it's all so good.
It's great.
Item cards and other things, right?
Yeah,
and wingles and wongles, right?
Yeah.
Why they had so many things, in fact. But yeah, we're excited. I'm excited mostly because this is, I think, a real great opportunity, kind of, Hunter, to expand our opportunities to be kind of like gooier. Like, we've often talked a lot about being
the audience
syrupy.
often demands it. Yes.
Yeah, on this channel. And I just feel like we could do more in terms of being gooey. That's always a target for us. So anyways,
well, Paul, you know what the thing is for me, I feel like a lot of materials today are they're more thin, and I don't really I hate throwing shade at anyone. This is not my game, right? It's not what I do, right? And different tables are different for different people, and different people enjoy different styles, and there's all these different things, right? So there's not necessarily a right or a wrong, right?
Right.
But I do believe, for me, and again, this is for me, and Hunter, you and I have even chatted about this in the past, right? This idea of having a much more immersive experience around a table, right, where it feels real, right, where it's not sort of kidding around so much as it is sort of being in the midst of an epic and sometimes very frightening and intense sort of tale, right? This, for me, is the pinnacle of TTRPG gaming, and I felt like that some of the materials that are out there in these days do not really foster that. They don't really help with that. And then for game masters to kind of create that environment takes a lot of work, tremendous amount of preparation time, especially getting handouts of materials and supporting things, right, and all of this stuff. And that was really the genesis of Gooey Cube in 2018. And
interesting.
And that's how we began, and this idea that we would go the opposite way and make a box set with many beautiful handouts and magic item cards, so that people don't have to deal with post-it notes, and 2 books so that you don't have to flip back and forth when you're doing combat, and all the encounters level balanced for you ahead of time, portraits for non-player characters. All of this stuff came from that circumstance. Oh, by the way, the Hound of the Baskervilles has just been released. It sounds like in my background. Do not be afraid. Yes, it will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, if I had $1 for every like magic item that I have hastily written out on like an index card and handed to somebody, like,
my goodness,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, and also they lose them, right? You know this, right? This right. You give it to somebody, right, and they write it down wrong, and all of a sudden the +1, sword of Seric Iron becomes the +5 Vorpal Blade of Death, and you're like, where did the +5 Vorpal Blade of Death come from?
Oh yeah,
I
distinctly remember. Oh yeah, I distinctly remember having games where like one of my players was like, "Okay, I'm gonna use this ability. I'm like, you're gonna use what?" And they're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna use this ability." I was like,
"Are you
Where do you have that ability from?" And they're like, "You gave me an item that does it." I'm like, "I most certainly did not."
So it's
See,
my
here's the
table
thing.
for many years.
I'm
sorry,
so
Paul,
much more forgiving. I am so forgetful sometimes that I will fully just be like, well, I mean, you wouldn't lie to me.
It is on your sheet.
Yeah,
I
it is
mean,
on your
yeah.
sheet there, and I'm a forgetful boy sometimes. So,
Yeah, I guess this is my
suppose.
mistake.
You know
Well,
what? Let's.
the thing is that the truth of the matter is at my table, and I've done this for a long time because it made it so much easier on me rather than giving a post-it note or reading it off to them, which always kind of ruined the moment. You know, they got this wonderful thing, right? And now you're like, okay, it's +2, except against vampires where it's +4, and it can make light at, you know, it kind of just ruins the whole moment of the thing. Versus you hand them a card with a picture on it, right?
Right. And then
it's
you
there.
keep going, and they can read over it while everything else is happening.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and it's also at my table. If you don't have the card, you don't have the item, right? So I tell them all the time, you know, that +5 Vorpal Blade of Death. I guess you left it in the loo 3 inns back, and it's being used to cut prime rib now on Sunday.
Oh man, I'm a very forgetful person. I would almost certainly lose an item card and be like, oh no, that was important.
So I actually make them leave them, since you game at my house almost all the time, right?
Sure.
I have them leave it at the house because also I don't want to lose my
sense.
cards, right?
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
Yeah. We are. I very rarely anymore run in-person games. I miss them desperately.
Oh, I miss it so much.
it's time to get back to the tables.
Yeah, it's time to get back to the table. It's also really important for me to be able to use. Do either of you flog your players when they make a bad decision? And they, you know, like do either of you like punish your players physically for stuff like that?
Physically, no, more mentally.
No, that could actually get me arrested, you know. So I tend to avoid.
For legal purposes, that was a joke Paul just made.
Yes, it was. Yes.
About beating his players when they do a bad thing.
No, but
I just mentally harass my players when they make a mistake and make them feel bad about it.
There's that, but then also there is also just like the community aspect that's really you know, I think
there is something very different about playing around a table versus playing online.
And we've all gotten better at playing online by necessity. You know, I think you know, Hunter and I, and Kim, I'm sure as well, like, look at your setup behind you. You look like you're standing in for Mr. David Attenborough. You know, we've gotten better at creating spaces and experiences in an online medium that, like, are fulfilling and build community. At the same time, you know, I love to be able to see the whole body reaction to a big drop. I love to be able to I love it when everyone's able to actually watch a physical die roll across a table. There are some things that you can't replicate perfectly. So,
and Paul, I get out of my chair and get in people's faces.
Oh yeah,
do that, right?
I love the scramble, like when somebody is like rolling a really intense thing and then they like roll it and they're like nat 20 and everybody is like, no, let me see, and like scrambles across the table to see it. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, the thing for me is that this is kind of a almost ritual thing at our house, right? So so I play with some really good friends, and I play with some family, and you know, we would come over on a Saturday afternoon. We typically do like a role play session, especially if it's a spring, summer, even a nice fall day. We go outside, and some of us enjoy a pipe, and we'd smoke a pipe or a cigar or something like that, and have sort of a role play session to sort of introduce the time. We'd play for a couple hours, then we take a break and have a meal together, you know, and sometimes go very, very late, you know, even at my age, still, you know, going 11:30, 12:30, 1 o'clock, it definitely still happens. And
your age of 28, correct?
Yes, of course. Actually, I've taken many pushes of longevity. They went the wrong way. It was a problem. Shortgevity, I think, is what happened.
Hey, J-Puck, thank you for the subscribe.
Yeah.
All right, well done. Yeah, give these guys a subscription. You know, that's help them out. You know, and it certainly follow. You know, you need the following and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah.
And
Well,
Um, well,
J-Puck's a lovely
J-Puck's a long time follower.
viewer. Oh
Um,
gosh, what a great player.
absolutely.
But
Um,
yeah,
well, Paul, you have a video pulled up?
I do. I have three actually.
Ooh.
So
Which
Alphinius,
which which one do we want to start with?
we've got three here. One is just so many cool projects going on over at Gooey
Mhm.
Cube. We've got Zeanthe, the world overview for this wonderful
Oh, that was
setting.
you butchered the pronunciation of
Is
that.
Ziathe,
what-
Ziathe, so it's a
Ziathe, sorry,
romance
I inserted an
language, right? It's got the
N that is
romance.
not there.
You added a
Um,
letter to just make it
yeah.
chunkier.
Uh-huh. I was thrown off that it didn't have more apostrophes, is what it was. I'm
Well
used
played,
to-
well played, sir. Well played.
Yeah. We've got Red Star Rising Chapter 1, which is
Mhm.
I'm very excited about. Based on kind of like I took
That's
a look at
this
these
one.
videos earlier. And then I there's also the Great Gooey Dungeon Game Show. And Alphinius, you may or may not be aware, we occasionally run a much less well-produced game show on this show. And so Davy Jones in the chat says, time to roll in the TV with the VHS player. Okay, kids, we're gonna do a movie today because Mr. Hall is out sick. So yeah. If there's any of those that are particular projects you want to highlight right here up at the top, we absolutely can, Alphinius.
Well, sure. Let's just make sure everyone's kind of aware about the world, and then we can show them the world. Actually,
Absolutely.
why don't you show the world video first? The world of Zathe. So it's kind of a stomp thing. It's got some cool. It's about a minute long, and I think it's pretty entertaining. I think your folks will like it.
Sounds good. All right, cutting to that.
Let's see.
All right, so that's awesome. That's
Thank you.
incredible.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh gosh.
I love the music in the background too. It's very
it's
like
so
it's
good.
very good. You said it was kind of a stomp thing, and I was not prepared for how much of a stomp thing it was.
Yes.
Yeah, that's our marvelous hunter. You know well, and I think you do too, Paul. That's our marvelous cameraman D, who puts together these wonderful
Yes.
things for us.
Yes. Hi, the Artemis, by the way. I don't know where the Nova theme song would be playing from. I believe you. But also we've got Tabletop Misfits in the chat here, who is really, really cool.
Dropped in just to ask if wizards wear hats, Alphinius.
See, this is the problem, right? This
The
is
harassment.
It's just it is. You know, every guy, I feel like that I should be able to call a lawyer or something, right? This is what's up, you misfitted people?
Oh, man.
I do think that we've I know that Ziathe is just this wonderful setting, but I think this is an important question of wizards wearing hats. Because it keeps coming up over and over within the cultural space. And I have to imagine there's some functionality, right? Like, why do wizards wear robes? Well, probably because they're sleepy. But hats, now that doesn't make as much sense, especially with a wide brim. That's not going to be conducive to
I think
nap
I
time.
think I have an answer for why wizards wear hats.
Yes.
It's that they spend so much time inside studying that they're usually very, very pale, and so they wear the hats and the robes to protect them from the sun, because they don't
it.
have the hit points to survive sun damage.
So
they get
you're
burnt,
telling me,
right? They get burnt.
Yeah, they get burnt, and then it's harder to focus, which means they
Now,
can't concentrate
hold
on their
on.
spells.
There's a thing for that. Are you telling me, Hunter, that the
Uh-huh.
wizard class, absent a hat, has sunlight hypersensitivity?
Sunlight sensitivity? Yes. That's
Yeah.
what I'm telling you, is that wizards are gamer nerds and do not have the ability to withstand the sunlight.
You heard it here first. And Chris Perkins, if you'd like to prove us wrong, all you have to do is come on the show. So yeah. But no, this is a wonderful,
we should have
setting.
we should have Ed back on the show and get an official ruling on that.
Listen, for people who don't have a clue what we're talking about right now, right? There is a controversy amongst the Gooey Cube community, which is how come Alphinius doesn't wear a hat? And because Alphinius won't wear a hat, there is all of this push back and forth that Alphinius is not really a wizard, but actually a sorcerer, right? So then people post up all these different pictures of various things and harass me.
My favorite part about it is, like, every once in a while I'll get a notification from the Discord and I'll look at it. It's just a regular picture of you, but with a hat photoshopped onto it. And it's endlessly entertaining to me.
Don't you think that is a little harassing? This is not right, right?
I think
It's fair.
I think that is a little bit of harassment, but also I will say this, that like Hunter wears hats.
I do.
see that, yes.
He's got a somewhat eerie neon green glow behind him. So,
here's
some
the
might
thing,
call it
though.
the classic Disney villain lime.
My hats are because I am a bard and they are for show.
Oh, nice.
For example, let's see what condition this is in right now. This is my bard hat.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, that's quite good. That's very, very Musketeers.
Yes, it's very good.
Yes.
But yeah, I am not a wizard. I do not have the patience for study that a wizard entails.
But, there's been a lot of these arguments, but of course, when we really examine the facts, right? The facts are that Dresden, who is clearly a wizard, does not wear hats, right? Unless he's been depicted as such, which is actually, from what I understand, actually a little fight between the author and the artist, right, over this happening, right? And of course, we all remember when Hagrid walked in and said, "You're a wizard, Harry," right?
And Harry did not say, dang, wait, hold on, I gotta get my hat.
He handed him a cake, not a hat.
Well, now hold on. We don't
you could
see
probably
it,
that's true. We
is
could
a king
probably
cake
list
kind of
on
thing.
one hand how many times Harry Potter wears a hat. I will say though, other characters in that series do wear hats quite frequently.
This is not my point. My point is not that wizards don't wear hats. Wizards wear hats, but not all wizards wear hats, right? This is my point.
Sort of like all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs.
Yeah.
But I don't like it because it gives me hat hair. You know about hat hair?
You know what I'm realizing in this moment?
That's why I wear hats, is because then I don't ever have to deal with it.
Yeah. You know what I'm realizing in this moment, fellas, is that the all wizards wear hats mythos, definitely a propaganda machine by Big Hat.
That's what I think. It's the Big Hatter companies. Yes.
My gosh.
It's a Gandalf. It's a Gandalf conspiracy.
Yeah.
Gandalf bought shares in Big Hat, and then
he was just like,
made
well,
a point
now
of being
I've
like,
got
well,
this giant hat that I'm wearing everywhere all the time for no reason.
And then to just drive his point home, he was like, here, I'll give you 2 different versions of Gandalf. One of them everyone universally loves, and the other one is like really powerful but a little boring. And he doesn't wear a hat.
He does not wear a hat. That is correct.
And so the good version of Gandalf wears a hat.
So you can have a wizard without a hat if you like being boring. But
I think it is very much like a wizard. Like a wizard's arcane focus can be like a wand, an orb, a staff, whatever you want it to be. I think hats are very much the same way. You could have a hat, you could have a hood, you could have whatever fits your purpose. You don't have to have a hat.
This is hat freedom, right? This is what we all deserve, to have our hat freedom, right? This is right.
It's one of the amendments is the freedom to wear hats.
it's the 29th, 35th,
Yeah, something
27th.
like that.
I don't know
Oh,
what it is. It's something
gosh.
like that. But seriously now, so this hat controversy kind of takes off, right? But so we're gonna do something somewhere along the line here over the next year or so. We're going to do a fundraiser, and in that fundraiser, Alphinius will put on a hat to raise money for some good
There you go.
charity. Right.
I
So
like
we're
it.
going to do something like that, which we think will be a lot of fun, and of course help some wonderful causes. Right. So that'll be a great thing.
Now, Alphinius, do you own hats, or are you just not very much a hat guy? Also, Hunter, you got to take your hat.
I'm
off
aware.
your
I
head.
see it.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
It's
Somebody in our chat redeemed the hats off to you for points,
So
which is
look at that hat hair. You see this?
it's just a thing there to make sure that I have to take off my hat occasionally.
yeah. But I don't wear hats much because I know that in the chat y'all can't really see because I'm only so many pixels wide. But actually, I'm bigger than your screen. And my head is enormous. I just have a big
You have a
old melon.
You have a large head. It's
I
like
have such a large head that
yes,
the all size
yes,
one size fits all like graduation caps don't fit this big boy.
Yeah,
I've got
it's kind of like if you ever
going
see
on
like
up
an
here.
Easter Island head, it's like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's long and it also is wide. And yeah, it
I
looks
also have a large head, but I just wear hats that are sized at large or extra large.
I just
Heat, move.
yeah.
I was thinking it was because you got like perfect hair, Paul. You know, your hair is
Well,
like.
thank
you have very good hair,
Alphinius.
Paul.
Thank you. Davy Jones says he's right there. Yeah, let's get the big head boys together. It's our band name.
That was the name of band in high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So yeah, but that sounds like such a wonderful little thing. I love the idea of like, yeah, sure, I'll put on a hat for charity. Yeah, whatever.
That's fun.
Well, you know,
good.
we did just do this wonderful thing, and we can talk about this more. It's not. I know we want to talk about Zayathe, but we did just do this wonderful thing at Genghis Khan with Marvelous Donnie and Andrea, who have made that wonderful convention there in Denver, and we did the.
I've heard fantastic things about Genghis Khan. I've never.
You got to come, Hunter. Next year, just come.
Yeah.
You know,
Next
we
year.
have so many Gooey people there. You too, Paul. You should tag it. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I
It's
saw
intimate.
that like
we'll shoot for
I
it
saw
next year.
Satine Phoenix was like there and she was talking about y'all and didn't she and her
Jameson.
husband
Jameson.
they got married at Genghis Khan?
Not yet.
What?
At
No, they're
Gary-
getting
at Gary
at Gary
Khan.
Khan. They're getting married.
Okay. They
Yes.
were at Genghis Khan though.
They were.
Yes.
Yes, and indeed.
And I was like, well, that's super neat. And then I saw that like they were like, yeah, we're here with Gooey Cube, and I was like, right. We have them on the show.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
This year is sort of our like first foray into I mean, you know, I've been to tons and tons of conventions, Alphinius. But this is Paul has never been to a convention.
It's true.
And so
along.
this year is sort of our foray into conventions as Warlocks and Waffles. So we're going to PAX East coming up next month. And we're actually the two of us are on a couple of panels at PAX, so we're very, very excited.
My first ever convention that I'm gonna go to, and I'm on a panel, which I think sets an interesting bar of expectation of just like, yeah, so if you ever go to a convention, they'll give you a guest pass for free and you'll be on a panel.
I've never been to a convention where I wasn't like at least an exhibitor of some sort.
Yeah.
Like I've never gone as just a normal person and had to wait in like all these lines and stuff. I've never done that.
In your defense, Hunter, it might be really hard for you to go anywhere as a normal person.
That's fair.
You met
It would
us.
require me to be a normal person first.
Yeah.
Which, according to popular reports, I am not.
But yeah, Alphinius, are you? What's like the next con you're gonna be at? And also follow up. are you planning on being at Origins Game Fair in Columbus, Ohio? Because boy howdy, we're gonna be there because I live in Columbus, Ohio.
We will indeed be at Origins again
awesome.
this
So
year. It would
glad.
be marvelous to
We
see
should
you.
we should do something at
yeah.
Origins. We should do a game or something. That'd be
Whatever
fun.
Yeah.
you'd like. I'd love to. We could grab some dinner. We could. There's a whole lot of things. I'd love to spend some time with you guys. That would be
Yeah.
fun.
You heard
that'd be
it
great.
here first, folks, right here on the stream. Wheelin' and dealing. This is how the sausage gets made. And so yeah, but but yeah, let's talk about Xayathe.
Yeah.
It's so cool. So kind of like, can you give us kind of like what were some
I just want to see, like, this is all, like, these are two different books that I have sitting on my on my bookshelf here that is just lore about this world and stuff. It is so much, and I believe there's another book in this box, so I'm excited to open it up and add it to the collection. But yeah, they so much good stuff in here.
So we wanted to create so in 1980, I don't remember, 80 something, right? This marvelous little supplement comes out from TSR. And it says Waterdeep in the North on top of it by a person named Ed Greenwood.
We had Ed was on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
My true of all of them all. And there are many that are really my heroes, but of all of them all, Ed is the for me the number one.
Yeah.
Ed is an absolute delight.
He's delightful. We didn't know he was going to be on the show. So they didn't tell us, and then Ed Greenwood appeared in the Zoom chat.
Wow.
And
So Ed is writing for a game currently called Fate of the Norns. And so he's writing like lore and stuff for them. And they were coming on the show. I had met a couple of them at PAX Unplugged, and so they were coming on the show. And I was emailing with them the day before, and I was like, okay, how many people do you have on? They're like, well, it's gonna be me and this other one and Ed. And I was like, okay, cool. We'll set it up for 3 people. We got it all set up, and then they started joining the Zoom call. And I see Ed Greenwood come up as the name in the Zoom call. I was like, hey guys, is Ed Greenwood? And they were like, yeah, we told you Ed was coming. I was like, you just said Ed. That that does not translate to Ed Greenwood.
That could have been Ed, and Eddie. Like, it could have been a
those
lot
guys.
of other
Yeah.
Eds.
It's like if I said, oh yeah, we're gonna go to the movie, we're gonna go see the new Captain America movie with Chris. You wouldn't assume it was Chris Evans.
No.
Yeah. Hi, Takards and Tails. So good to see you in the chat. But yeah, and we've actually got someone here who I think is really going to appreciate Xayathe, being able to talk with the Alphinius Goo here about it, because the Artemis 88 says that they're a lore junkie and that their homebrew world they're running is full of it. So you can ask Hunter, you can ask the chat. I'm a big crunchy boy. I love to just dive deep.
Paul
would be a
loves
wizard.
a bunch of yes, you would be. You would have to sit there. I'm more likely a warlock, because it's a charisma based class that, like, I have gotten my power from making deals with other people.
Yes.
Yeah. I would say bard, but if it has to be a core caster, it's probably warlock.
Yes. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit about this world here, and like where the inspiration came from? I know you were talking about it, and then we got sidetracked by.
Oh, it's all good. That was a wonderful
how
little.
Could we
That was
not? But
what a wonderful tale. That was just because really, I mean, I have virtually everything that Ed ever wrote. The Forgotten Realms were so breakthrough at the time in terms of the.
It was next level.
Yeah, it was next level. And as we moved into 2020, these last few years, as we moved this 2010 to 2020, I began to ponder sort of what would the next world look like if it was really something, that was more, because everything changes, right? Things evolve, things adjust, and they get better. And the Forgotten Realms was not, I wouldn't call the Forgotten Realms grimdark. I would not describe them that way. Certainly not for the first 30 years, right? I would call them intense. I would call them interesting. I would call them deep, but I would not call them grimdark.
No.
And we began to ponder sort of given the sort of the way society is now, right? What attracts people more, what they're more interested in, and all that kind of stuff. And we sort of figured that a grimdark world would probably be palatable, whereas it might not have been in 1980. Let's just speak the truth. It might not have been for the society at that time. And so Xayathe is very interesting because it is post-apocalyptic magic. And it is really magic focused. There's not black powder, there's no technology of that kind of thing. And there's even down to, we tried to come down to a admittedly totally not plausible, but fantastically believable physics of the world. Okay.
Right.
And so what happened is this terrible conflagration, this terrible calamity called the Woe of Ruin occurred, and it corrupted magic, and it destroyed the high cycles so that these really amazing civilizations were cast down immediately. And not only that, the corruption began to spread in the world, and it began to do things to the world and do things to people and do things to creatures. And this is sort of the underpinning of all of Xayathe is this really scary sort of grimdark thing. And this all emanated from a group of 4 lords of corruption who there's much more tale, and I don't want to dig too deep into it, but it really it's a little scary, and that is intentional. And Hunter, you know this better than most, right? This is kind of what we're driving for. And I think that the response has been very, very good, right? And in fact, when you open it up, you know, I've had this goal to create something that I thought would be, because in the SRD, and I want to be very respectful, I appreciate the fact that Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast allow us to publish under the 5th edition rules. You know, that is a wonderful thing, right? Because it really helps the community, it helps the whole thing. But there are certain things we are not allowed to publish, and I understand that. You know, there's certain things I would prefer people wouldn't take from ours. I'm sure you have things that you would not want people to do.
Yeah.
But I love mind flayers, and when you open your box, because I think I know what's in there, we're going to turn to a page if you can find it, and show people the Thule, which are. Now, this is not a PG-13. This is a PG-13 plus image. So make sure you look at it first, Hunter, and make sure nobody's gonna have a heart burn over this. But I think this is what we are trying to do: is to try to sort of make this grimdark world that people are nervous about a little bit. It's a little more intense, because that's the kind of game I like, right? So that's Xayathe in a basically a nutshell.
Yeah, and so
awesome.
That's really, really cool. And Hunter, if you wanna get to this unboxing, which
do you wanna play another video while I get this cut open, and then we'll dive in after?
Yeah, this is the trailer, and well, just one other thing to tell you about this. The other thing that is incredibly unique about Xayathe that I really want to speak to, and Hunter, you know this, is it's a collaborative world.
Yeah.
And we have literally taken hundreds and hundreds of submissions from our community, and literally have published or are publishing them in our materials.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and also sounds like an administrative nightmare.
Horrible.
Because
you have no idea. You know, it's just it's horrible.
What's the filtering process?
No hesitation in that. Elphinius goes, yeah, no, it's the worst.
Well, I mean, like, this is the thing on the back end of like a lot of creative endeavors like this, where it's like a really cool idea. We had Alchemy RPG on a couple months ago, and they talked about
that long ago already.
It was, yes.
Boy.
They talked about how they loved doing the Kickstarter, but it came time to deliver the goods, and because of like shipment delays and stuff, the executive director said, like, yeah, at one point I just wanted to grab boxes full of the books and just fly to everyone's house and hand deliver them because that felt like it would be easier. And so like what was the filter process for these submissions like? Because I gotta imagine that there were a lot that weren't even just like bad and like dumb, but some that were like, hey, can you do beholders? You know, or you know, a lot of them that were like, I would like my pet dog Jamothy to be in there, and
Jamothy,
yeah,
the Scottish Terrier.
Yes.
No, no, no. I
yeah.
want to tell you this. I really want to tell you this because it was surprising to me. We did kind of a test. We began this Contributors Guild.
Mhm.
The first book that ever had stuff in it from our community was the one you held up there, that West Fordestia book, Hunter. And it had, I think, 30 some submissions. And with the exception of a goofy thing that happened with teleporting shops, which we kind of got dealt with because we kind of educated people on Ziothe, most of the stuff that came across was very palatable.
Yeah.
The biggest issue is trying to make sure that it is not contrary to big lore, which we're very careful about, and also that it can be kind of crafted so that it sounds like it's written relatively in one voice.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so the editing process and all that stuff. What I am truly excited and in awe of our community, and it's all going on 2,000 people now in the Facebook and some 700 people in the Discord. What I'm in awe of the community is their commitment to the lore and to the world. And that really has taken away exactly some of those things that you're worried about, Paul, which is the, you know, the goofiness, right? The just, you know, trying to be goofy.
Because they're invested in it. They wouldn't
Exactly.
want to make it something stupid.
That's right.
Which really limits the like, because anytime you get the like the submissions from everybody, it does open itself up to being like, why there's a ship out there called Bodie McBoatface. Because they were like, we'll let the public name it, and the public was like, Bodie McBoatface, 1 million votes.
And I think like to just if you run a D&D game once, you'll find out immediately. Like if you give your players a tavern to run, or a boat, or a car, or a thimble that they could write their name on, they will name it something dumb. Almost guaranteed. And here's the strange thing, though, is that like they'll do that like once, and then they'll feel collaborative, and then they may do it again, but like the more you let them build in that world, the more they'll take it seriously. And it is kind of like it's the inverse of a diminishing returns, where like you'll find out that like they'll blow out the chaff pretty quickly, and then they'll start saying like, well, I mean, Bodie McBoatface needs a very like serious crew member. Like it can't be Gerald the Clown.
One of my favorite moments in one of my games was one of my players got a dire wolf pup, and they like very like jokingly, like the person was like, we need to name him. There's a ritual we will perform to bond the two of you. He will know his name and like respond to it. And he was like, what do you want to name him? And the player, without missing a beat, goes, Butts McFarts. And I was like, okay, this dire wolf is now named Butt McFarts, and like, he knows that. He knows that's his name. That is the name he will respond to. And then for like 2 years, Butts McFarts was in a game where like he was with the rest of the party, leading to a moment where like they had moved so far beyond the like nonsense of that they were in a battle where Butts McFarts was like hit and was down, and somebody like screamed with like almost tears in their eyes where they were like, somebody save Butts. And like the drama of that moment was not any lessened by the fact that the name was Butts, because it's a fantasy world where like names are already ridiculous. Like when it really boils right down to it, Butts McFarts is not any less absurd than like Gouvin Macarb. Like one of them just sounds like
all right, you've
fantasy.
just hey Hunter, sorry to say, half of our audience is named Gooven McCarb, and you have just been very offensive.
Hey, for anybody who's listening, if your name is Gooven McFarb, hit me up because I want to buy the rights to your life story. I don't know what sort of life you lived, but it sounds incredible based solely on the fact that your name is Gooven McFarb.
And by the way, Alphinius, you can just have that. If you want like a familiar for
if you want an
Alphinius
NPC,
you could have it be
Gooven McFarb.
Gooven McFarb could be my friend, right?
Yeah, there you go. If I don't see the McFarbs clan in the next Zyathe book,
well, you can submit it.
That's true. I could.
No problem with that. So the thing is, but it's interesting how it happens. So I have had this belief set for a long time that I'm a creative director in my real life, right? You all know my real name's Kim, and I've been in the advertising business for such a long time, and just really enjoyed it, and had the opportunity to work with some big brands and do some really cool stuff. And apologize for jumping out of character, but I think it's kind of fun to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We jump out of character all the time. We're terrible at maintaining.
We know you are characters.
We jump into different characters.
Yeah.
We'll just change which character we are midstream.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the thing that I believed for so long, having gone to so many conventions, met so many people, really enjoyed this community of gamers, right? Is how many wonderful creative people there are. Really wonderful creative people. So many world builders, so many people who want to make wonderful backstories for their characters, all of this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so the premise, this idea that we could actually create a world where I wouldn't go out and hire a bunch of professional writers or just a few, actually it's not a bunch, right? Hire 3 professional writers. They write all the stuff with my writing, and then it's my world, right?
Right.
This idea that there's a lot of people out there can write pretty well, and good editors can help decent writing be great. Okay.
Right, exactly.
Why not let our community help craft the world?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, and it's such a thrill, like, to see something that you created, like brought to life.
Yeah,
like
it's the core of like a lot of the TTRPG. Like.
Indeed.
Experience, right?
One of my players in one of my games a while back is a very talented artist. And I remember them drawing a picture of one of my NPCs just because they loved my NPC so much. They drew art of it. They spent hours creating fan art of an NPC in their game.
Yes.
That meant more to me than anything else that anybody could ever, like, any compliment that has been paid to me, anything like that.
Just to let you know, every other player that Hunter has who's listening to this, you now understand where you are on the pecking order. You know
what I mean. Like the fact that they put in, like, they loved something I created so much that they
took the time to make it better.
Yeah.
I tell you guys, the response has been amazing, and I don't think you even know this, Hunter. I think if we include the Goo crew, it's definitely true. I think we're approaching some 200 plus people, including the Goo crew, where we've done their portraits of their characters, right? Their pictures, and they're either in the Weirded World right now, or they're going to be in the Weirded World.
And that artwork is super cool. It's one of those things where, like, every once in a while I'll see it come up and I'm like, I should do that. That'd be fun. And then
you should do that. Yes, you should. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
But I just, I'm really starting to come to this place. I'll jump back to character now, but I'm really starting to come to this place where I really think that over the next few years, virtually every major non-player character that appears in Zyathe and our materials as we go forward is going to be one of our friends. Yeah, it's not going to be just made up out of the blue. It's going to be one of our people, and it's just really Magica has like 15 essays from
Right.
wizardly folks, wizardly types and sorcery types and druids and stuff in the world, and they're all our people. It's just magnificent.
Well, and to kind of circle around, bring it back to kind of like your comment that, 30 years ago, the Forgotten Realms setting was huge and innovative.
Unbelievable.
Fresh and interesting. The thing is, similarly, a lot of the Forgotten Realms is just like player characters who were, immortalized.
Yes.
And their stories and the stuff that they built together. And so you are formalizing that process, but that doesn't mean that it's any less collaborative or innovative. And I think that this is something that we come back to. I say it a lot on this show, but I think you are doing it systemically and intentionally, which is just kind of like acknowledging and living out the truth that the universe of cool ideas is larger than any one person can imagine.
It's massive.
Right.
Paul, I just got to interrupt you. That was profound, and it's right.
Oh, shucks.
Right.
Thank you.
Because sometimes
Every once in a while, Paul says something smart.
Well, listen. I want you to hear this. Because all of us, because of our humanness, not all of us, but most of us, can get a little enamored with ourselves, right? A little bit, right? Yeah. I've done this. This is kind of cool, right? I've done, right? And I think we should all battle against that as much as possible, right? Yeah. We should all sort of recognize, where we all come from, and that there are lots of people. I mean, listen, let's speak the truth. For every wonderful, marvelous singer artist who is discovered and making millions upon millions of dollars and all over the world and all of that stuff, there are probably 500, 1,000, maybe more with just as much talent, just as much good looks, just as much all of this stuff. They just weren't discovered.
Yeah,
right?
And it's got to be really, really hard for folks like you and me, Alphinius, because we don't need hats to hide our perfect hair. It's hard. I look in the mirror every day and I have to tell myself I have
did not come here to be attacked. Paul just has a post-it note on his mirror that's like, hey, if today's rough, remember your hairline's not as high as Hunter's.
It actually says, remember you're
none
not
of you
as
got
cool
this,
as you think you
so
are.
just settle down. You're fine.
A high hairline does not a weak character make.
My hair right now is just like really long.
Yes, you are. You need a cut, sir. You need a little cut.
Here's the thing. Keep that hat off there, Hunter. Davy Jones.
Oh, did somebody resume it? Screw you, Davy Jones. Yeah. So here's the thing, Alphinius. I get married this upcoming September.
Oh, congratulations!
And so, thank you. And so I'm growing out all of my hair and like my beard and everything, so that like a couple weeks before the wedding, I can cut it to whatever I want it to be, instead of like trying to maintain it at something. I'm just growing it all out. So it's very long and curly in the back right now, and the top is just long and straight. And I don't understand why my head does that, but it does. So here we are.
When you started this paragraph, Hunter, you said, I get married, pause, in September. And rather than I'm getting married, I get married. And I thought you were going to say, I get married about once every 8 months.
About once. Yeah. I mean, we've got, 6 months left until then? Less than 6 months now? Very exciting.
Yeah.
No, that's
get married regularly if you can. It's good for the heart and liver.
I hear it's bad for your wallet, though.
You would know. I don't know.
It depends on how hard your spouse is willing to step up and make a little money themselves, right? Could be good for your pocketbook, right?
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
And in the TTRPG publishing industry, it's really hard to beat that kind of money. So
you know the whole story about this, which I actually have come to believe might be kind of true. A guy right at the beginning, when I went on this journey with all these people and began this Gooey Cube thing, right? A friend of mine said, the quickest way to get to $1 million in the game business. And I said, whoa, you have a secret? And he says, oh yes, the quickest way. And I said, well, tell me, come on, tell me. Yeah. He says, start with $2 million and go into the game business.
Yeah.
That's fair. Oh boy. Oh man.
I hope your audience audience hasn't heard that joke like 40 times. You know, it's
No,
not...
it's.
I don't think it's been told on our stream.
It hasn't been told on our stream. It is very true. And I'm in the jokes business, so like I was like, yes, it hurts because it's true.
It does
but,
take a
yeah.
lot of investment and effort
It does. Yeah.
to build their constituency, right? To
Mm-hmm.
get your name out there, to get in retail stores and
Oh my
work,
gosh.
you know, go to all these conventions and all this stuff.
I
But
keep
you know,
trying to get into
again,
retail stores,
it's
but they
the
won't let me.
creation. I'm sorry, Paul. I apologize. I didn't
It's
mean
okay. It was a dumb joke. I make them all the time. This one was not profound.
But
He said he's been trying to get into retail stores.
I try to get into retail stores, but they asked me to leave. So
the
yeah.
last time you were arrested, I did read about that in the newspaper. There was, I don't know what the situation was.
How did that get into your local newspaper? I'm not that big a deal.
I think it was the section under little deals, but people who were arrested, something like that. I don't know what it was.
The newspaper has a section on small-time crimes from other towns. What newspaper is this?
Colorado
Some kind of
Springs, you know, it's kind of weird like that. You know?
whimsy-heavy newspaper. Whoa.
Honestly,
Gosh.
I would read a newspaper article that was just here's weird crimes that happened in other states.
Yeah.
I don't want to read about the crimes that happen near me.
Right.
That's
No.
potentially scary. But like, tell me what happened in like Louisiana. I know it's gonna be wild.
You've described the reason people play Dungeons and Dragons. I want danger, but I don't want it here.
right.
So yeah.
I don't want it real, right? That's what...
Yeah, exactly. And Florida's just far enough away for me to believe it doesn't exist. So yeah.
But we did this Kickstarter. I think you guys know this, right? We did this Kickstarter, and our community really did step up and help us, right?
Yeah.
Because it was getting pretty expensive, and we've been able to kind of do most of our product development on this Kickstarter that we did. And that enabled us to work more with the community and kind of figure out how these processes would work. And I can't say we've got it figured out easily yet. It's still clunky, but what I love is I love the community is enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
You know, we do try to compensate people who are doing significant writing. So if you're doing more than a couple of pages of writing, we're actually going to pay money. Okay. And if you're doing, you know, sort of smaller submissions or participating in a team, we're going to give you some really nice rewards that are worth valuable, not $10, because I do know the reputation of the industry is that they try to get a lot of people to do stuff for free, and we just don't want to be that group, right? But what we also do, of course, is artists, and part of our mission was
your guys' art style is very, very different than a lot of the other stuff out there.
Well, I went in the beginning and I said to myself, one of the problems of turning out a book in a timely fashion is if you only have one artist working on it or a couple of artists who are very similar styles, it takes a long time. It takes a long time.
It does.
And I personally like diverse artworks. I think the having more than one art style can actually be more interesting and more fun for people who are enjoying it. And so we're currently working with somewhere between 18 and 20 artists, and I'm adding more as we go along. And
are you finding that? Sorry to cut.
No,
you off.
go ahead, please.
Are you finding, because like that's something other guests have said, is like art direction is hard because artists who are good often specialize at certain things. So like you know, there are artists who are like, yeah, I do character portraits and not maps. You know, like, please don't ask for a landscape from me. And you have to pick and choose and find the people who can do the things that you're looking for. Thanks for turning us on, Davy Jones. Always glad to have you in the chat. But yeah, so are you finding that, like, is that something you're doing a lot of? And I know kind of like from the creative direction side of that's probably a super helpful skill set and a level of experience to have, because Alphinius, you're here, but moments ago actually there was a man named Kim who was a real Don Draper type, was a creative director and advertiser.
I drink 3 scotches every afternoon. Yes.
Right. Yeah. No, he came in and boy, the charisma just oozed out of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll let you know if we see him again. But yeah. So
I've been art directing for many years, right?
Mhm.
And the other thing is that for me, I don't want to nuance everything for the artist. I want the artist to be the artist and enjoy the process themselves.
Yeah.
And so if they're not perfectly on with what was in my mind's eye, I don't care. Right.
Sure.
And I think that's good art direction, not bad art direction. And it also helps keep you from doing lots of changes, which keeps your costs down. Right. So there's also important, right? Because we have in every box, we have thousands and thousands of dollars in artworks and in a lot of money in writing too. And so you know, our boxes are expensive, and we don't have the kind of margins that folks have when they just print a book, you know, overseas and for a couple of bucks or whatever it was, and sell it for quite a bit of money. And but what I am excited about is that quite a number of the artists that we've worked with are undiscovered. And
that's good.
Over the last 3 years, quite a number of those have become discovered.
That's
and
awesome.
They got to work with a studio. I've got an email from one of our wonderful artists she says, I'm almost crying right now. Thank you for the opportunity. I finally got this job at the studio that I was hoping for, and it wouldn't have happened without you. And, you know, this is part of being part of a community is giving to the community, not just taking, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I have a player, much like Hunter does. She's in graphic design, and she occasionally, spontaneously, will do character art for other players in the games that she's in. And I had, like, at one point I sent her a message and I was like, hey, do you do commissions? Because I would love to commission some work for, like, other players in other games. And she was like, oh no, I don't think I'm good enough that I could get paid to do this. And the thing is, like, you know, that's a hurdle that, like, we have constructed for artists to get over, is like, oh, well, art should be for the enjoyment of it. Well, yeah, but you also need to pay your bills. And the thing is, she is quite good. And I think there are a lot of artists out there who are either undiscovered, they just haven't had a great big opportunity yet, or honestly, and this really hits me as tragic, is like, they think that they need to have made it before they can make any money, before anyone should pay them anything. And the thing is, like, no, you don't get to made it without, like, transitioning into it full time. And if you're gonna do that, you need to be able to make money doing it, and you're good enough already to start.
And even it doesn't even have to be a full-time gig, right? Because a lot of people these days have side hustles, right? So to speak. Gooey Cube is actually my side hustle, just so everybody's clear, right? It's not a very good side hustle, because hustles are supposed to make money, right, not lose. But it's my side hustle, right? Because I got a day job.
If a side hustle isn't making money and instead of losing money, does that make it just a regular hobby?
I think it's not a hustle anymore, right?
It's Gooey Cube,
creating this whole company is your hobby.
But listen, I got faith. You know, I mean, Hunter, I got faith in the materials. I got
absolutely
faith in I've gotten so many emails now from not just new game masters, but game masters who game master for 20 years or 25 years, who send me an email and say, you know, I did what you said. I followed what you said in the philosophy stuff. I prepared, and I just had some of the best games we've ever played in my entire time. And I believe that, and I do believe it. And you go to our website, there's all these 5-star reviews. They're just all over the place. And
oh my gosh.
And I do think there is a hunger out there in a sub-segment of the RPG community for truly immersive, intense kind of being there gaming. And that is what we're all about. So
absolutely.
If you want to show that trailer, that trailer,
let's do it.
Really
the past 20 minutes, by the way, dear audience, has just been preamble for this video, just to kind of prepare you for this video. So here we go.
Let's see it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's so pretty. The art, like, and our stream knows I'm a big art head. Anytime we start talking about a project that I like, the first thing I always mention is the artwork, because I've seen like projects that the artwork just wasn't anything to write home about. Like, no offense to those projects, it just was like,
Could you name
art,
5 of
like,
them just so that we can burn some bridges here?
I mean, yeah, sure. Let's go off right now.
Don't do it.
No.
No, but like, you know what I mean. Like like even core 5e modules. Like it's a lot of like material and then some artwork that's thrown in, and a lot of the artwork is like, it's good. It's good. Like it's always good artwork. It doesn't like grab me.
Right.
Whereas like anytime we find a project like this, or our friends over at Alchemy RPG, their artwork, Disaster Hamsters, I loved. Anytime we get something like that, the artwork just grabs you. That really pulls me in.
Yeah. I honestly, Alphinius, if you were able to put kind of like a tentacle monster that could come out of the book and grab Hunter and pull him into it, I think that would be best case scenario for Hunter.
So we actually do this, Paul. This is purposeful. So this is unusual.
You put a tentacle monster in your books?
Not the tentacle thing, but it's pulling in, right? So
yeah.
So listen, here's the thing. I'm a game master and a forever game master, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what I never have liked is materials where you tell me it's going to do this, take me from level what to level what and all that stuff. And then you get into it and you realize that you got probably 50, 75, 100 hours worth of work to really make it sing. You know, that always has disturbed me, right? Especially if I'm spending a pretty penny on the material, right?
Yeah.
And so what we have done is not only make it not sort of instruction manually with lots of holes that you have to fill. We've gone away from that entirely. We've even made the chapters a saga, and we cliffhang the game master. So even the game master will not know the whole. We will not tell you the whole tale in 5 paragraphs at the beginning. We tell enough for the game master to run the game and be able to run the adventure well, and not make a mistake and do something that could really screw it up in the future. But we also give the game master the joy of actually reading a tale, being enthralled in a tale, being sucked into a tale. And I have literally had people, I've gotten emails of late because people are getting close now to finishing chapter 4, and we're a little late on our Kickstarter. Speaking of late on Kickstarters, right? People saying, I got to know what happens in chapter 5. Will you please hurry up? Right. So
yeah. No, people are telling us, as we were like telling people that, yeah, we've got Alphinius Goo coming on. It was like 2 things. It was like, we need the last book of Game of Thrones, and we need this chapter 5 from Gooey Cube. These are the 2 books that everyone's talking about.
It's all over the internet. We're trending right now.
Right. Yeah. HBO has a deal. They approached us for some reason to tell us to tell you.
Yes. No, I think I think that making it fun, right? Making it fun and enjoyable for the game master, right? And making it easier for the game master allows them to enjoy the adventure more. Right? This is the idea, right? Because we work so damn hard already. We work so hard, you know?
Yeah.
And I ask this, I got to ask you, Paul, I ask you all the time. I ask all these game masters all the time. Sure. We do all this work, right? We invite people over to our houses and buy them food, right? Yeah. We you know, right? And all we care about is just one thing. Just say one thing to me at the end of the night.
You had fun.
What is that? That you had fun. That was a great game.
If you didn't have fun, go ahead and just don't tell me. But
if you didn't have fun, you can lie.
Lie.
You can. It would be polite of you to lie at this point. It's how I end most of my game sessions. But no, it's true. I want them to have fun. I also want me to have fun. And kind of like to your point, Alphinius, I am a devotee of Mike Shea's lazy DM method myself, mostly because like Oh boy, when I started game mastering, the impetus for me to I have played perhaps 15 sessions of tabletop role playing game as a player in my life. I have run hundreds. And the reason there was like I played in a campaign run by a local guy here in Columbus. It was Pathfinder, and it was really lackluster, and it was clear that he was kind of throwing it together at the last minute, and he wasn't really like letting anyone kind of move their story, like affect the story. He had this whole thing that he wanted, and it was clear he just kind of wanted to run a novel that he was writing. And I decided, like, well, I can do this better. And I thought the way that you do it better is just by spending 20 hours a week figuring out a 3-hour session. And I quickly grew to hate it, like a job. It was a chore. And I started Googling. I was like, how do game master for less? And Lazy DM method came up, and it has saved my enjoyment and love for the hobby, because without that, I am spending 6 hours to prep for a 3-hour session, and when you do that, you become emotionally invested in certain outcomes, and you become emotionally invested in the work that you've put in. Way more than the community you're building at the table. And it's not bad. It's not bad that you are emotionally invested in your own work, but you shouldn't have to do that much work.
I remember the first time I like sat down I was like, maybe I'll try and run Curse of Strahd. And I like opened up the book, and one of the first things it said was like, you should probably read all the way through this book 3 times minimum before you attempt to run this. I was like, I think I'll run something else.
Yeah,
that sounds like a lot of work.
Hunter and I are different in this. I do run published modules, but the way that I do it is I go into every published module that I read knowing, okay, I'm gonna invest like 100 hours into this, and then I'm gonna run it like 30 times. You know.
Right.
So I know Mike very well, and I'm a big believer that to be a really good game master, there's sort of a spectrum, right? And over here on this one side is just improv the whole thing, right? Improv the whole thing. And over here is sort of railroad them down the tracks and never let them deviate, right?
Right.
And I am definitely a person who is here. You know, I believe very strongly in my improvisational skills. I can improv, I think, with the best of them. But I don't believe that it is so easy in an improvisational circumstance to really put out a multi-layered plot, subplots, things going all off in different directions, and really trying to keep that together when you're improving.
Sure.
And so for me, this is why this was the genesis of Gooey Cube, because I do think there's genius in putting together these sort of outlines that the lazy game master talks to, because this does help if people go in different directions you didn't expect and all of these kinds of things. But I also think that to make a truly immersive game does involve things like illustrations and handouts and materials and things like that players, non-player characters, all of this stuff. But that is exactly what you're talking about right now, Paul. This is the 20 hours of prep work to run a 3-hour game.
Right.
So I thought, well, what if we could take most of that away from the game master, still give them obviously room that the tale can evolve and grow with the players. It's not told for the players, it's told with the players, right? And give them all of those accoutrements. And that is truly because I think a Gooey Cube game is definitely more in the middle. It's definitely not all improv. It's definitely not railroady. It can be railroady. By the way, I think that's unfair. It is not fair to be elitist about this thing called railroad. Okay, it's not fair, and people should not do that. Let me tell you why. In every good tale, every good story, the protagonists get railroaded all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure,
but
absolutely.
I would say like yes, and Matt Colville talks about this on his channel a lot.
Matt's great, by the way.
Matt's wonderful. Matt, if you're listening, you know, but he talks about railroading and kind of like the difference between railroading and violating player agency.
That's right. That's the difference.
Railroading as a 4-letter word that we use as a bad word in the tabletop space.
Right.
People are talking about, well, my game master, told us like, they asked us, what do you do? And then we were like, we would like to throw a saddle on the dragon and ride it out of here. And he said, no, you can't build a saddle. You don't know anything about saddles. You are bad at leatherworking, and you don't have a horse ready to turn into leather. And like, I would say right at that moment, thank you, Chalsey. I would say right at that moment, this is an interesting idea. You understand that there is a high chance of failure, but I will not stop you from attempting to saddle a dragon because holy crap, even if you fail, especially if you're going to fail.
Yeah,
let's be real.
You will not make this check, but it'll be glorious to watch as you fall.
Roll me 3 natural 20s in a row. That's what I would say. But let's not let the story just die right here.
Absolutely.
Let's let you try, because the trying is the story.
Right. And what I've said in the past is like there's a distinct difference between what the majority of people would consider railroading and providing a path.
Yes.
Like you can have a path through the woods that they're going to follow. If they leave that path, that's their choice. They can. It will be a different game if they leave that path, because now they're in the woods, as opposed to like you are locked in and you can't leave.
Yeah.
But I think too many people think that when somebody says that they have some like a story planned for them, that like, oh well, you're gonna prevent me from making choices. Well, then what's even the point of the game?
Right.
You're gonna prevent me from just nuking the planet with an apocalypse device anytime I want? Wow, holy terrible game master, you're bad, and I would like 15 feats at level 1, and if you don't give them to me, you're mean.
Whatever
you
happened.
Certainly try.
I want 15 feats at the first level, and if you don't give me them, I'm gonna go. Whatever happened to the rule of cool, man?
Whatever happened to the rule of cool? I'm gonna go to Reddit about it.
Okay. The box is open.
Oh, look at
boy.
that.
Oh boy.
This is a giant, heavy book.
So Hunter, you know this, in the Kickstarter, we promised that these 2 tomes would be 250 pages, and one of them is 350, and this one is 400.
Now, the unfortunate thing, Hunter,
this is a heavy book.
Hunter, please do open to the foreword of that book, and you're gonna, just to check if it does say that you need to read it through 3 times before using it.
It does not.
Oh man. Okay.
What is
the page? What is the page that I'm gonna have to go
All right,
to?
well, just bear with me for a second. Let Paul tell a joke, and I will look it up.
Oh man, that's your funeral.
As it happens,
letting him tell a joke.
More of a commentary on kind of like what we were just talking about. I would say that, like, yes, having the game master be an integral part of the storytelling and like guiding the players is a good thing, generally speaking. But if I can kind of like offer a different metaphor than rails, because like a train can't depart from the rails. If it does, we call it an off-rail, an off-the-rails train, and that's bad because then people get hurt by a train. But you could reframe it as the game master is shepherding the players. A shepherd can go cross-country. They can choose a different path, but they have a bird's eye view of what's going on that their flock can't possibly appreciate. And the trust is there to kind of like, you're going to show us kind of like where you're going to give us a good sense of like where we should go, what our options are here, without like necessarily forcing us to go step by step down the road.
Correct.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is there has to be a level of trust between the players and the GM.
Yeah.
The GM is not there for like as your enemy. And the players aren't there as your enemy, GM.
By the way, if they
so-
were, it's not a fair fight.
Right.
No. So like, if the GM is like directing you down a path, they're not doing it because they're like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna send them down this path and kill them all. Because that's a bad game. If they are doing that,
Find a better game master.
find a better game.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, GM, like your players are not out to get you if you're like if they're trying to differ from the story you're trying to tell. Go with it. See what they're trying to explore.
And the thing is, this is what I try to tell people: the illusion of choice gives you so much room to move. Right? You have a dungeon that you want them to go to. Right? Don't place the dungeon ahead of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Let them go the direction they're going and put the dungeon in front of them, right? These are the kinds of things you can do so you don't put yourself in a position where you make a whole lot of work, because it is a lot of work, right?
And
you put in a lot of time, right?
Yeah. Mike Shea talks about that in the Lazy DM method. One of the things I really love, and you know, this is, if you think this is beautiful and profound in the audience, go ahead and do yourself a favor and buy the Lazy DM's guide. But there's a section which is my favorite section of the process, is write down 10 secrets and clues for that your players might discover this session, and do not build into those secrets and clues how they will discover them. Keep them abstract. Don't place them. Don't say like, well, Josephus knows that Beavis is actually suffering from the curse of magic illness. Don't do that, because then if they never talk to Josephus, they can't find that out.
Correct.
Make it abstract, and then like you give yourself the freedom to reveal these things when they are appropriate and when it feels natural. And you'll still deliver all of that content, but it'll happen naturally in places that the players chose to go to.
Right.
And this
It
this
also-
is the sorry, go ahead, Hunter.
I was gonna say it also means that it's going to come up organically in a conversation. So like
Right.
when they're talking with somebody, they can let them know what they found, as opposed to feeling like a video game where they walk up to somebody and they're like, interact, and the person is like, well, I heard there's kobolds attacking farms in the Outer Ring, and it's like, okay, well, I guess we'll go out there.
You walk up to a random shepherd who doesn't know you, and he's like, "Ah, are you the warrior of legend that I've heard so much about? Well, you must be, and so
Because that's the only reason you'd come talk to me.
I'm gonna give you a complete overview of the political status of our nation."
Hello, my name is John Questgiver. I come from a long line of quest givers.
My father was a quest giver, and he sent many people to their deaths. But yeah.
Well, anyway, this was exactly right, because this is the genesis in the Gooey Cube materials of NSREs. So NSREs are not so random encounters or events.
Yeah,
And the reason why they're not so random is because random encounters are stupid.
they
right?
kind of suck. Yeah. Yeah.
But encounters that you have planned that you can bring forth whenever you need to bring them forth,
Yeah.
events that you can bring forth whenever you need to bring them forth, are exactly what you're talking about. You just don't have to make them up because we've done it for
Exactly.
you, right?
Right.
Well, that's
So
what
we
I
have
do
to-
in a published module. I look at their random encounters table, and I'm like, I just choose like 3 or 4, and I'm like, they will encounter these ones because the rest of them suck.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
I distinctly remember sitting in a game once as a player, and the GM like rolling for the random encounter. He looks down and he goes, "Oh, that doesn't make any sense." Okay, well here we go. And I was like, choose a different one.
Yeah. Yep. I love this. This NSRE sounds very, very good.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you
No,
find
no,
Did
you
you find
would
me
like
a page number?
Oh yes, 184, my friend, 184.
I'm scared.
It might be 183. I don't know. It's just you'll know it when you get there. It's right. I think it's 184. That
DM Eric coming out strong. Rolling for encounters is stupid. And
No.
I mean, like, yeah, I don't think we're gonna disagree with you.
Not at all.
Yeah, I don't even bother to like.
Oh my goodness!
Oh no.
This thing's horrifying.
Yeah, that is the Thu'ul, and that Thu'ul is doing the rite of devouring. That's
insane. Can I show it into the camera?
It's It's a little gruesome, but yes, of course.
It
That's
is.
okay. Don't worry.
This is what I'm looking at here. Look at this
Whoa.
thing.
Okay.
That's horrifying.
Woof.
So yeah, so wait till you read, Hunter, about the rite of devouring, what the Thule will do with the soul, and
Is that
and I think you'll. I think
This
you'll
artwork
be-
is
Wow.
artwork is beautiful.
Thank
is
you.
that guy on the right gonna be okay?
No, it's not going to be good. It's not going to end well.
Oh.
In
Bob
case you
Bobbington,
couldn't see it from me holding it up, one of these tentacles is going in his eye and I believe bursting out the top of his head.
Yeah,
Whoa.
they're called Vomicles. These are what these three things are. They're called Vomicles, and they have a certain function and in the rite of devouring, and it's pretty good.
Horrifying.
Hunter.
Horrifying.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
wait to read it and you tell me what you think.
Goodness
Grim Dark
gracious.
is definitely Ziothe, and
Oh, yeah.
it's not for kids, right? And
No,
I tell
no,
people
no.
that.
This is something that like I didn't realize. I haven't been playing Dungeons and Dragons all that long. Hunter's been playing since his dad decided to scar him emotionally as a child. And I haven't been playing all that long. So like for a long time I was hearing things in the ether about like, oh yeah, mind flayers are real scary. But like the art that we're given is not that terrifying. So it was really hard
Sure.
for me to conceptualize how they could be like really, really scary. The descriptive text is all there and it's fairly horrifying, but like it was hard for me to conceptualize it. And then Baldur's Gate 3 is now coming out and I watched just the trailer alone is an extremely graphic depiction of Mind Flayer,
It is.
Yeah,
like
horrifying.
capturing and treatment
Is
of
indeed.
prisoners. It's horrifying. Do not watch it if body horror is a trigger for you, because oh my god, suddenly it clicked. I was like, oh wow, oh no, these guys can really scare
Yeah,
the
get
pants
real
off the
bad.
party. Yeah. So yeah, it's a it's so important to have art that does justice to the
Justice to how
emotion,
terrifying something is.
to the emotion of a thing, whether that be terror or mirth or you know just general like a sense of warmth and hominess.
Absolutely.
Or even if the tavern isn't warm, but it is kind of in a grimdark setting, like a tavern that you keep coming back to doesn't need to be warm, but it is home, and it's the one
Right.
place where the darkness isn't immediately
Correct.
trying to kill you. It could be slowly killing you in the tavern, but that's better than out there, you know?
Correct.
And so being able to feel that just jumping off the screen or the page is so important for me because I need to be able to convey a feeling to my players. If we come down to kind of like core jobs of a game master, one of them is like, we need to create an emotional experience. And I need to know that the content I'm dealing with can evoke that response. And I need to be inspired by it in order to generate improvisationally content and experience that evokes a similar response.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I'm
And that's
very
what
visual
that's
in
what
that way.
brings immersion, right? And now your players are there.
Oh yeah.
Right? And and honestly, for me, this is what I said earlier, right? I mean, listen, I really can't underscore this enough. There is no right or wrong way to play this game. If you as a game master are enjoying it and your players are enjoying it, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter if your whole game is combat and you're more like a tabletop war game and they're all loving it and you are loving it.
As
go
long
on,
as everybody's
right?
having fun,
Go with
go
the
for it.
gods.
If you're
Yeah.
all theater of the mind and you don't have any miniatures or any of this kind of stuff and you're just sitting around talking with each other and sort of making things up as you go along and everybody loves it, that's wonderful, right? And this is that elitism thing that I think we really all need to be careful of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there is no, it's what's fun, right? Are we having fun? And if we're having fun,
Love
all is
having
well.
fun together. Don't
Yeah.
love the
Indeed.
way that you have fun over someone else's.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you love the way you have fun, great, excellent. Maybe try out someone else's idea of fun. You might be surprised.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And,
Artemis in the chat said, but your fun is wrong.
yeah. Yeah.
Well
That's
played,
very
Artemis.
good.
Well played.
Also in the box is this very pretty character folio.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's
so
very
we
good.
had
It's
this
very lovely.
Hunter. We had this hand illustrated with one of our artists, because I haven't seen any of these around in a long time.
Page after page of just beauty.
Yeah.
Pencil only on that though, my friend. This is only for pencil. This is it's meant to be careful and nice and something for a special character, right? That's really
Absolutely.
I think that's like that's a really good thing is like we're coming to a point in the tabletop space where like there was for a long time like these games were really only like there was I feel like in the 90s and early aughts this space where like pretty much adults were playing it and it didn't have the necessary like size of market for something like a D&D Beyond to exist, right?
Sure.
And so there was a high barrier for entry. Most groups had sunk hundreds of dollars per player into their gear, their kit, their miniatures, their dice, and it was all like indie dice makers and all
or
this
just Chessex.
Just
Chessex.
And that's all, you know, if that's the way you play, great. But here's the thing. That's a terrible way to introduce someone to something by saying, yeah, so I'm going to need $500 up front.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that we have now this gradation where like there can be things like this where there's this wonderful like nice thing that you could build up to. From like I don't have a whole lot of minis. I run with like pieces of candy. Because that's not what I've chosen to invest my money in. But you know what I do have.
And that's the game you enjoy, and that's the game your players enjoy. It's just fine.
I'm sure I would love a mini heavy game, but I've invested my time and effort and money in other things that I feel are very immersive, like Sirenscape and artwork and stuff like that. So yeah,
and Artemis says that they love making custom character sheets when they play. They never use regular character sheets anymore. And I'm the same way. I use all of my character sheets on like D&D Beyond. So to me, this almost feels more like something I would do when a character was retired. Like transferring everything into very like special. Okay, this is the hard copied like memoriam of my favorite character that I no longer get.
I actually have a couple of those that exact way, Hunter. And we just, you know, the fact is they don't make those kind of things really anymore. And it's just it's so pretty and it's so evocative, you know, and probably is not something we'll ever even sell. You know, we'll just give them away to people who support us in Kickstarters, give them away to people who support us at conventions. And if somebody wants to buy one, of course they can, and some people have. Yeah, but I don't think it'll ever be, you know, sold in huge quantities.
Well, the next things in this box are new races. Which like look at that. That is so pretty.
The Enzandra Oz were made by the Etherns to be their slaves.
Okay.
And they are intelligent beings. They're self-aware, and they are the only people on the face of the planet who consider the woe of ruin, the terrible cataclysm, a good thing, because it was their liberation day.
Interesting. Okay, that's cool.
Now
they almost it invokes an almost like a more beautiful, glamorous Warforge.
Yeah, we really wanted to go wider than Warforged by a long stretch. We wanted to give all kinds of character options and interesting things and a backstory. Listen to this backstory. So inside of the Enzandra Oz is a material called Zytherium. And it is sort of a semi-liquid magical substance that can no longer be made because of the change in the magic in the world. Yeah. So this substance is very valuable. Yeah. And so these Enzandra Oz are actually being hunted by some various individuals to try to take their stuff. Yeah. I mean, that is so cool.
That's so cool. It also builds in like a wonderful kind of like motivation as a people.
Right. And there's just a continuous like something that's just going to be a continuous motivation and like something that can push the party in different directions.
And
what's the next one you got there? Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I really love when there's like a culture that can have a kind of like cultural motivator that is like powerful. Like the GIF in D&D have
Oh,
have
yeah,
kind of
the
similar
war,
storyline
yeah.
of like, we hunt mind flayers. We used to be slaves, and now we hunt them.
Mhm.
And that's cool. And then on the other hand, like, things like, think second edition orcs were just kind of, it was fairly heavy-handed of like, yeah, so orcs hate civilization at
Mhm.
large all the
Yeah.
time, and they're bad and dumb. And that's weak. That's just bad storytelling.
That's correct.
Um,
Yeah.
That's the issue, right? The
Yeah.
issue is that
yeah,
it impacts the tale, right?
yeah.
And
And it's also like, it's born out of some racist
Yeah.
ideas, but
Yeah.
also it led to some really bad storytelling,
Mhm.
that doesn't really form an interesting story. You killed an orc. What does
Mhm.
that mean?
right. Yeah,
You
because
know?
multiple layers of character, right, is always good. Hey, Hunter,
Mhm.
show
Yeah.
the Skundrews.
Yeah, because this beautiful, very 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 pretty. These less so. That's
So I want to tell
horrifying.
you,
Still pretty in their own
listen to
way,
this
but yeah.
tale. So this is a great tale.
Yeah.
The last one here is even spookier than this one. So
Well, show the Fazud because that's the intelligent undead, right? And
look
they
at that.
right. So these are intelligent
That
undead
boy.
that can actually
Oh.
That's
have as a race.
beautiful.
You can play them. But I
Yeah.
want to tell the tale of the Skundrews. So this is a wonderful tale too. So Malathuk, who is the god of the dead, was the only god who was forbidden by Avova to participate in the creation of any race. Avova said, "Dude, you're the god of the dead. You don't get to have a race. It's not your job, right? You don't get to have that, right?" And so Malathuk was sorely vexed, right? He was not very happy because he was excluded from the club, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he went and brooded in his bone palace for a number of years and then figured out an answer. So Malathuk stands at the bridge of the dead and directs all of the souls to their afterlife. And what Malathuk did was he crafted vessels in his own image and likeness
Okay.
that look a lot like that thing you just showed on the cover, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then every once in a while, he grabs one of those souls that's going across the bridge and puts it into the vessel, thereby circumventing the rule that he could not create his own race.
Yeah.
And he named them the Skundrews and put them on the planet. And this is the wonderful, because they have memories of their past lives, right? So
Right.
there you have this other thing that can go, right? Which is
Yeah.
marvelous.
I love a
love that.
good reincarnation system too.
Yeah.
The Pillars of Eternity universe does that. I don't know if you're familiar, Alphinius,
I am.
but
Yes.
excellent writing there too.
Great work.
And
I
excellent
I
world
want to
building,
I
but
want to
yes.
hear more about these boys. And
Fazood.
so does DM Eric V in the chat.
Yeah,
It
so-
says,
so
it says,
there's-
"Ooh, intelligent undead. Tell me more."
Yeah, so there's a location in Zyothe which has to do with the lore, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but basically about 200 years ago, the dead began to rise of their own accord. No necromancy, none of that stuff. They just began to rise of their own accord, and basically caused the war that was going on between Magdranog and the Republic to be stopped, because they kept getting attacked by their own soldiers after they were killed, right? So this whole thing. But interestingly, some of those that raised were actually self-aware and intelligent. And like everything in Zyothe, there is no race that is evil nor good. They're all like us, right?
Right.
You know, we have on the spectrum, right? This is even true of the intelligent undead, which are the Fazud.
The act of
And-
existence is not morally weighted itself. It is what you do with the gift of
Correct.
life. You know.
Correct. And I'm actually proud because we before everybody started talking about this, we were there, years ago. It just didn't make sense. And it wasn't like we were on some crusade, but I do think
Right.
it's good to step away from these things and see where they could have some implications that we don't want to have as a society, right?
Right.
But I think also it's what you said earlier, Paul. It makes for a bad tale. It's
Yeah.
kind of goofy, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
make no
Yeah.
sense, so
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that's
I think a fresh look at undeath is very much called for. I think we've seen Bram Stoker, we've seen Gothic tales of horror and all that, but the thing is undeath could be so much more than just like a boogeyman.
Oh, it
It
is.
could
You
it could be
wait,
more than
Paul.
horror. It could be something that like is just something's natural state, and they're just having to live or unlive with what they've got. You know,
Yes.
you don't
Mhm.
ask why your heart beats and pumps. Why should a zombie ask why they are cold? You know?
So if when you get a chance, Hunter,
Mhm.
show Paul Kalnovik's essay, the dreadlord who basically rules the vile desolation with
Oh
all these
man.
undead of yore.
You have a page number for me?
Yeah, but I don't know if you want to read it right now. But it's going to
Sure.
be in the
Well,
West for
we've got
Destiny.
20
That was
minutes.
the
That's
earlier book.
probably
Oh, yeah.
that's probably a good
I'll
20
find it
minutes
later.
of content of just like
Yes,
let's
find
just
it
read
later.
off an essay.
Now the
Um,
last one you got in there is the Fusilier, right? You got
Yeah.
that. So yeah,
Uh,
show that.
this is a gun boy.
Yeah.
Also autographed by one Alphinius Goo.
Well,
Um,
so nice of you to do that while you're in the studio here today.
So the Fusiliers, I really did not want to have
Yeah.
black powder.
Yeah.
mhm.
And
They're
so
very cool. I love the take you have on these guys.
thank
Yeah.
you, Hunter. I know because you've been exposed to them a little bit. And just to give your audience just a quick little tale. So basically, what we did was to create, in a world of magic, firearms would not be black powder, they would be magical.
Sure.
And so you
Why
have
not?
these Fusiliers that use these magical firearms that don't fire projectiles. They fire certain types of magics and different kinds of magics depending on what kind of Fusil they are.
Yeah.
So we think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Can I ask?
Yeah, they're
kind of
almost
like,
closer to wands than guns.
right.
Yes, correct. In some ways, yes.
Can I ask about kind of like the design process? Because I'm a big crunchy boy. I love
are
a
a
good
big crunchy boy.
system of like rules that helps to experience a certain fantasy. And I use fantasy here in the sense of like the fantasy of being a gunslinger has a lot of the what we would call cool built into it, right?
It does.
There's I love that Matt Mercer in building the gunslinger subclass included a new resource called grit because that's so essential to like the Wild West style gunslinger. And so like the mechanics when they work at their best help us to feel the fantasy of the character we're trying to embody. What was the design process like? Because it's a very specific fantasy that you're evoking in people when you say, here you can play people with a couple of pistols. What was that like?
So all of this, Paul, right, is we, we're kind of building the plane in the air, right? This is something when you start, right? And you've got all these ideas and you can't produce everything all at once, right?
Right.
So we literally actually did these 3 races and the Fusilier ahead of time. And we went through, we number crunch. We got people who are a little crunchy themselves, right? But we actually produced them ahead of time on purpose because they are not, when we do the Cyclopedia Magica, the Fusilier will come out in that, but we've had time now for people to actually review it and look at it. So if you want to take a peek at the Fusilier yourself and throw a suggestion back and forth, it'd be most welcome.
Well, I guess like I don't even know that I'd have useful suggestions, mostly because the best way to find out if the thing works is to play test it. Right, exactly. So like I don't have I almost never comment on something that someone else has suggested. I have a player who's like she approached me and she was like, I want to make a puzzle dungeon and do you have any suggestions? Here's the puzzle I'm thinking of. It's got 17 different steps and also they'll be taking constant damage while they're solving it. I was like, okay, so first off, I don't have a whole lot of like I'm not perfect at knowing when something will or won't be fun. But this one I can like if it's obvious, puzzles give players the tools necessary to complete them and like show them how it works before they die. And so that one's easy, but like so often with like a complex thing like trying to achieve the feeling of being cool, you just got to play test it. Like I can't predict whether it's gonna work. Let's just play it out at the table. So my recommendation to those of you who wanna like see if this is going to be cool, buy it. And
a lot of people have gotten them, so we'll see what. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
last thing in here are the item cards that we talked about earlier, that have the picture of the magic item on the front, and then the description on the back, telling you what they do and all of that information, which are always very cool. Love these.
Thank you, Hunter.
Um,
And then, of course, we're fulfilling the Kickstarter as quickly as we can. Obviously, COVID created a lot of problems, not just for
Absolutely.
us, but for many.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was not just COVID. There's shortages now of things that have little to do with COVID and have to do with other things, paper and printing and all of this stuff. And some of it is just we bit off a lot and maybe more.
It's a big project.
Yes.
Speaking of big projects, we're getting close to the end here. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about Darkenhaven.
Yeah.
I feel like that has to be what we talk about here at the back end of the show.
Yeah. And
so I should have sent you the maps. Obviously this, Hunter, that Darkenhaven is sort of inspired a little bit by Waterdeep, inspired a little bit by other great cities.
I could be wrong about this. My understanding is like it's gonna be like this, right?
It's gonna be thicker. It's actually gonna be about
for a city.
For a city,
there is the information for a city in this form.
Yeah.
It's gonna have so much content.
Yeah, Darkenhaven will have 6 poster maps that are all hand illustrated in full color.
Love that.
Okay, to form the city. And then it will have 4 books inside, along with an adventure. It will have floor plans for some of the premier locations. It will have portraits of non-player characters. It will have a special set of city-based magic item cards, a special set of Gooey rewards cards. It's going to be, our goal is to make it one of the greatest fantasy cities ever published. That's our goal. Wow. And then, of course, Hunter, it sits on top of the Gloom port, right? Down below, right? So,
right.
I'm so excited, Paul. You haven't seen
those, right? Those hand in hand is just insane.
I love a good city, because the thing about a city is like I can realistically run a campaign in a city. Do you know what I can't run a campaign probably across the entirety of? The Sword Coast, all of Faerun.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Why are we doing so much overland travel?
I did, like, I remember when the Kickstarter went live. I pulled up the Kickstarter. I was like, awesome, it's live. Let's see. And I was like, okay, cool. There's two new chapters for the story. I'll pick up those. And then I was like, oh, there's also like this stuff for East and West Verdestia. And I was like, oh, okay, like that. Clearly, I need those as well. And then I started reading about Darkenhaven and Gloomport, and I was like, that's so much content. For that's such a dense pack of content of it is a massive city up top, and then below it is another massive city,
which I love. I love it. I love
which theoretically that is 2 different boxes that size for essentially 1 location, which is going to be incredible to be able to pull from.
Well, Paul, what you said, I love a city campaign.
Yeah.
I love people being able to get to know their neighborhood, right, and get to know people there, because things happen to those people that they're now emotionally invested with, right? And it just makes for such a great game.
And do you know what's really great about a city campaign is it's believable that there are bandits around every corner. Do you know what I hate people doing? Coming back to kind of random encounter tables. You're traveling on the road. You run into 17 bandits.
Yeah.
They are, for some reason, camping 700 miles from the nearest town.
You're in the middle of the woods on a road. No, you haven't seen anyone else on this road the entire time you've been traveling. You get out days and days from the nearest city, and that's where you're gonna encounter 7 bandits who are laying in ambush. It's like,
and the thing is, they've only been here for about 4 months, so they're probably fine. But okay, all the bandits in this world are, I guess, Bear Grylls. So like they should have their own town at this point. But yeah, cities you don't have to do that because
Yeah.
you're already in the town. You're where the adventure is happening. Don't try to force adventure where there isn't one.
And just naturally, the players will start forming connections with NPCs in the town. And because like if you have like a whole like continent that you're exploring, there's gonna be like maybe 1 or 2 NPCs that you like know in each of the cities, and like are excited to go visit them when you go back to those towns. But like if it's a city, like you're gonna have specific people that you are like, not only are you like, I like that NPC, but like your characters are friends with that character. Like you have built a relationship with that character. You're gonna go back to see them. I have one of my groups is running through Waterdeep Dragon Heist, which is very much a city adventure. But they latched on to one of the NPCs in the city, and they're like, well, this is our best friend. We will be here all the time. We'll be constantly bothering him. Anything we can do to make this NPC happy, because this is our best friend now. I love that about an adventure that is focused in one location, because you have time to really explore and learn about that location, as opposed to just being like, okay, well, this is the city of whatever, and these are the 2 quests that you're gonna go on while you're here, and then you'll leave.
I bring back parties to previous locations. I tend to try to constrain just bouncing all over the place, because I do think that as you gain familiarity as a player, you gain more interest, right? And this is, and so that's, I mean, there's a lot of little things that I think people can do to improve their games if they just, sort of ponder, right? What, things, and look at some videos. Some of the folks we talked about earlier are great, and others that are out there. And I know you guys wanted to talk about the Gooey Dungeon game show before we stop.
Yeah.
They want to show that.
Absolutely. Let's cut to that here.
So this was the first one we ever did.
In the depths of the Feyweird forest, shadowed by the mighty Wormrest Mountains, east of the town of Dragon's Cross in the Republic of Zoranthia, lies a fearful and dangerous place. Many are those who have lost their lives there, and many more still will die in the times to come. It is known by many names, but most call it Kravan Gaul. Shadowed are its depths, filled with all manner of fiend and abomination. Malevolence infests the very stone, for here, the Underdelve itself lives, with a heart as black as the darkest cavern. Perhaps someday, brave venturer, you may journey here, and pass beyond one of the 5 entrances to tempt the fates, and seek unbounded treasures that lie within. But go with Gizmia's blessing and her name upon your lips, for if the goddess of luck is not with you, you will, most surely, meet Malathuk at the Bridge of the Dead. Hi y'all, my name's Kim.
Yes, how was that?
That's incredible.
That's so cool. I cannot imagine having all of that Dwarven Forge in front of me. I would just be drooling. I'd be like, oh, what's over here? What's over there?
Yes, well, Ms. Goo thinks I am insane. I started buying this when Stefan Pokorny came out with it in 1990, right? And And my wife was like, "What are you doing?" And I kept getting more and more. And then I backed a couple of their Kickstarters. I just think they're wonderful. And of course, this led to this idea of the Great Gooey Dungeon Game Show. And we've done it a few times now, and we're going to do a big one at Gen Con.
Cool.
Where Satine and Jameson are going to play with us again, and I think Stefan and Nate from Dwarven Forge are going to play with us.
Nice.
And we're going to raise some money for some charity, and we're going to have a wonderful dungeon build.
If you need another player, I could be persuaded to go out to Gen Con.
Yeah, well, you come on, come man, come join us.
I love Gen Con. I would definitely go out for Gen Con. It's such a good show.
Surprisingly, I've never been, but I would love to, of course.
Yes,
it's a great show.
We're gonna have a party. We're gonna have a little Gooey party on Thursday night, which I'm not sure where that'll be. We'd have the game show. It's gonna be fun.
When Goo Crew members get together, is there like a lot of Jello consumed? What is the typical culturally appropriate method?
It's a flan. It's a flan. Like it's got that gooiness.
There's a lot of porridge.
If I tell you, I have to kill you.
Yeah,
so.
it's just a creme brulee with green food dye in it.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is that like I have a thing about like food texture because I have anosmia, so like I can't really taste most foods. So texture is extremely important to me, and I'll tell you what, to my senses, everything we just listed is sinful. Everything we just listed is apostasy and high heresy to my mouth, because it's just like, okay, so you decided to go with no discernible texture. This is not solid, it's not liquid. We don't know what's going on here, and we're pretty sure that there are bugs in your mouth. And so yeah. Tabletop Misfits, I'm thinking about it, all right? Hunter and I still have yet to hear back from Gen Con as to whether or not they're giving us a headlining spot. But
that would require us to reach out to them, but
we just want them to approach us. But no.
We're working on PAX East right now. That is the stress level of preparing to go to that is very high right now as our first convention that we're going to as Warlocks and Waffles.
Gosh.
So I'm sure after that we will be much better at doing conventions going forward.
Either that or we're gonna kill each other. So
it will be one or the other.
Yeah. But Alphinius, it has been a true honor and such a delight to have you on our show. I know that like the folks in the chat have been absolutely crazy about the stuff that we've shown here. DM Eric, it sounds like, has already purchased one of your products, so we'll expect that check in the mail. And it's been so great to have you here. I particularly have really loved just kind of picking your brain about the creative process for all of these products, as well as like your thoughts on how to run games that are fun for everyone at the table. Is there anything you would like to kind of like leave the people with here? Any wisdom?
Well, first, thanks to you two crazy guys. I appreciate you very, very much. This was marvelous. What a fun time to chat and laugh and all this stuff, and fun, right? This is the world is tough, right? And fun is a good thing, right? It's good for our psyches. It's good for our brains, right? All of this stuff. And I just appreciate you both so much the honor is truly mine. And, I would invite any of your folks who would like to come have fun with a really creative group of people. If you're on Facebook, to come join the Gooey Game Masters Den. And Hunter's in there. I don't know if you are, Paul. I don't think you are.
No, not yet. But so I'm gonna get up in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on.
For sure.
Because really, there's none of that drama. There's none of that weirdness. It's really all about gaming. It's all about fun.
Yeah.
It's all about creativity. Yeah,
you could find we pitched a bit, and we might do it again, where like we hash out arguments that people are having about petty stuff in D&D on Reddit. And that's an easy bit to prepare because you have to do is go to the front page.
Never-ending well of it, yeah.
And the thing is, like, we could all just sit back, relax, and try to have fun together. That truly is like what I'm here for, and I'm so glad to meet a person who's making that possible for so many other people. So
Well,
thank
we
you so
appreciate
much.
you both, and thank you again so
Yeah.
much, Hunter. Thank you, Paul. You guys are
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, our
Absolutely.
pleasure, man.
Um,
Well,
we've
yeah,
we've had a
that
great
brings us to
time.
the end here.
If this is your first time watching us, thank you so much first and foremost.
Yeah,
But also
drop a follow if you haven't already.
Yeah, we are 2 followers away from running a one shot on the channel
Oh.
with some of our players. So if you haven't followed yet and you want us to have to do extra work, go ahead and do that. But the other thing I'll mention here is that if this is your first time watching us, we also broadcast on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. Because we started that's the original broadcast slot. It's just me and Hunter. So if you're looking for more Alphinius content, they have their own website and channel. We understand fully if you're only here for Alphinius, but
You're just here for the goo.
yeah. But we also broadcast at 10 a.m. Eastern on Thursdays.
Monday. On Thursdays we have 10 a.m. On Mondays we have 1 p.m. Eastern, and we have a new guest on every Monday, or at least we try to.
Yeah.
And we are so thankful for you coming on the show today, Alphinius. It's been so good to catch up. We were so filled with content today that we just blew through our midpoint break that we normally do.
I saw it coming. I'm usually the guy
yeah.
who's like on top of our like break times and our timings and segments, and I was like,
I looked
you know
down
what?
and
This
saw
is
we
so
were
good.
at 2:30, and I was like, "Meh, it's fine."
Yeah.
We are in partnership with 1985 Games. They are great people. They're doing awesome stuff over there. They've got all sorts of maps, minis, all sorts of stuff like that. I will drop a link in the chat for you. If you haven't checked them out, go check them out. If you follow our link, that helps us out. And if you buy anything, use coupon code WAFFLES at checkout. You get 10% off. They're super awesome. They've also got a Kickstarter coming up where they're doing VHS tape themed dice sets.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited about those.
It's gonna be awesome. In addition, we are partnering with Alchemy RPG for our upcoming actual play, which launches Monday, April 4th. And that's going to be an evening time. So
yes,
for
all you out there who are like, you guys are on too early.
Yeah.
Well, no excuse anymore.
For those of you who are hiding from your boss at work with your headphones on right now, don't worry. We have a thing that we're gonna do where you don't have to hide from anyone that you enjoy us. If you're hiding from other people that you enjoy us just because you're ashamed of it, that's okay too.
We understand.
But that's all. Gosh, we've got
exciting
so much stuff going on, and so too does Gooey Cube. They've got all that stuff. You can find that all on their website. You can find them on social at Gooey Cube. And thank you so much, Alphinius. It's been so wonderful to have you on. Until next time, Hunter, do you want to tell the good people what to do?
Until next time, have a great week, embrace the nonsense, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good one.